Android Dialogues, where we have bite-sized conversations with people from the Android community. I'm Chuki Chan, and today we are speaking with
Nicolette Yadegar.
Hello, Nicolette. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Good, yeah. So, where are you based? What do you do? And how did you get started on Android?
So I'm based here in San Francisco. I work at Microsoft right now. And I got started on Android when I was in college. But I kind of left that behind. My first love. And then I, dabbled in full stack development. And then when I joined this team, I got back into doing Android. They kind of gave me a chance to build a Giphy app and see how I liked using, Android frameworks and stuff like that. And just went from there. Yeah.
So cool.
I stuck around.
Yeah, one thing that for me is very interesting is before I met people who work at Microsoft on Android, it never occurred to me that Microsoft has teams working on Android.
I know, I had no idea either. And I honestly was shocked when I saw the job listing and I was thinking there's an app? Let me download it. Let me see what it's like. And then I met the team, and they're really involved in the community and like to keep up with the latest trends. So it was just really cool to be working at Microsoft, but be part of something that wasn't so Microsoft centric.
Right. Yeah.
So it was almost like a whole new experience for me. Yeah.
So and then speaking of that, actually today, that's what I want to ask you about.
Sure.
How does your team hire more people into the team, and how do you interview them and know that they are going to do a good job?
Sure. So recently we started reworking our interview process because we were kind of going through the usual candidate process where we ask the programming questions, algorithms, and so on. And that works well for, vetting out candidates. But at a certain point, especially our app is fairly mature, we started asking ourselves, what are we really looking for somebody to add to the team? And I think it definitely makes sense for, candidates who are fresh out of college, that's kind of their knowledge baseline. But we have, let's say, a mature code base. So we need someone who's going to be comfortable with refactoring. We need someone who might be comfortable with adding or writing new tests. And how are we going to bring that into our interview process? We also wanted to be more inclusive. I think we were having issues with the pipeline of just not getting the candidates that, for whatever reason, didn't fit into what we were throwing out there. So for example, asking for a homework assignment is not a viable thing for a lot of people, just because they either have something to do outside of work. They have a life. They want to spend the time with their families, or they have other commitments. So we decided to move away from that model, and what we did was we stuck with the model of having the app built, but what we did was we built a basic version on our side, and then when the candidate comes in to interview, we just have them sit down with us, and we kind of have a couple of phases that we go through where we either have them refactor a piece of it or add a test, or ask them how would you improve this? Would you add a design pattern here? And then also, we use a lot of libraries like Retrofit 2 and Dagger 2. How would they implement that? Because a lot of people might put that on their resume. But and asking questions about it, quiz questions, is not as valuable.
So do you have two versions of that? But I look at it like a cooking show where you take the turkey out and now you ask them to add garnish rather than go cook a turkey at home.
Exactly. We just have this base version and we say, okay, because it's coming into work into our code base. Here's our code base, please add something. So we say, add this feature, or how would you handle, so whatever your app kind of values the most, right? Some apps really rely on animations and UI heavy components. So adding things like that and seeing how people work in that space without expecting them to have everything memorized. We're very open, look this up. If you forgot how to make a toast, no problem.
I think what I was wondering is say, I'm interviewing and I'm presented to this code base that has Retrofit, Dagger 2, and all these things, and RX Java. And I don't know RX Java will immediately be just push on the side because that particular library I'm not familiar with. How do you balance between having a realistic kind of representation of the technology stack you use, and people who may not have like the exact experience.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, I think we definitely try to tailor the experience to the candidates and have them be prepared. Because again, like we might be interviewing someone very senior who has a lot of experience in RxJava, or we might have someone who's like newer to the space. They have good, solid like Android fundamentals, but they've never had a reason to use RxJava, right? Like you don't necessarily need to use it all the time. So we don't, like for this example, like I don't think have RxJava in there, and we'll put it in, I think based on what people say they have some like knowledge and expertise in, that we're looking for. And we have to prioritize things, right? We can't be like, everybody needs to know these 6 libraries perfectly, otherwise we're never gonna get a candidate.
That sounds so reasonable, but you will be surprised how many job listings out there was like, here's a scroll of all the required thing. And
like 8 years of experience.
And the sad thing is, a lot of the time that means people who kind of inflate the ego will apply because they're like, oh yeah, sure, I don't know all these things, but whatever. Versus people who are a lot more realistic.
Exactly.
Like they're like, oh, but I don't have everything on the list, so I guess this job is not for me. And like when you were talking about being inclusive, I think that's actually a big factor. So I'm very happy that you actually tailor more to the candidate's experience and see how and you can work together versus I have this dream of like the perfect candidate. And then you write out this perfect description, which then you don't even need all those things anyway.
No, and like we already have like a very solid team. So the growth we're looking for is obviously someone to add value and be able to work well with us, but also who can learn. Like we are totally open to people learning. We're not in that crazy bootstrap mode where you just have to come in and like hit the ground running. Obviously that's lovely if you can do that, but you have your own things to contribute in that way. We also worked with recruiting to make the job posting more inclusive as well. Like I reached out because again, it's totally unrealistic to say like must have this. So just moving those things to the like nice to have or bonus experience section totally opens up more people to say, oh, that might be me, or I might be able to learn that before an interview even.
Yeah, that's like half my other rant about the hiring in the industry in general is everybody wants senior engineers full-time working in San Francisco.
I know.
But the world is very big. You don't have to check all these boxes to have someone that can work on your team. And especially for me, at least, I know a lot of friends that are retraining, become Android engineers, like maybe from the web, maybe from electrical engineering, maybe from theater. I mean, I have friends that retrain from being a chef into a data scientist. And like there's a lot of things that actually the discipline that you learn from other disciplines, that's the same word, actually apply. So I'm very happy that you are not just put your blinders on, like I only want this person to join. And it sounds like you will welcome someone who come into the team and learn with the team.
Absolutely.
Rather than just, so how do you evaluate those people that you're more evaluated on the potential rather than like what they know? Like how does the interview process
cover
shift?
That?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So again, rather than having the homework assignment, we have this sort of like pairing experience where we want to see if they're open to suggestions or feedback about the way that they've done things. And obviously that requires us to coach each other or ourselves in the way that we deliver that feedback as well, and making it not, because interviews are so stressful. Honestly, I think I get more stressed out interviewing people because I'm so nervous that I'm going to make it a bad experience for them. So both sides are
responsibility too, because this is their career.
Exactly, and so both sides are nervous. So we really try to make it as much the environment of like, are we going to be working together? So if we're evaluating someone who may be coming into the team to like learn, we want to see how they take feedback, what kind of questions they ask. If we want to have somebody coming in who might be in a more senior position who needs to mentor the team, we might ask them to explain concepts to us and say, so let's say I say, how would you use Dagger 2 here? Like what is dependency injection? How does that work? Because we do have more junior people on the team as well who will be learning from this like candidate.
I really like how the process is more focused on the mechanism and the like exact knowledge. Like how do you explain things, how do you learn things, how do you course adjust, right? Like if someone tells you something that you didn't think of, like do you take it personally? It's like, oh, he hates me, or you're more open to a back and forth.
Exactly.
So then afterwards, after the interview, like how do you get the feedback? And do you have like like a table that you measure people, so that is fair, right? Because if you just go by intuition, we are only human.
Exactly.
There's so much bias in us.
Absolutely. So we always make sure to meet beforehand to kind of lay out exactly what we're looking for. Like I said, if we wanted to be tailoring to the candidate, so we have to say, what is the level that we expect this candidate to perform at based on their experience? What are the kind of baselines we hope that they hit? So we kind of have phases of the interview process that we say, okay, how far did they get in this question? And let's say if they didn't answer, how were they doing? You know, were they interactive and communicating, or was it just kind of I can't do this at all? But we definitely, because it becomes a more intuitive, subjective thing, we do have to try to come up with metrics to say this is exactly what we're looking for.
Great. Well, okay, I guess I will just ask you one more question. Sure. Which is like, if you have one tip for other people at other companies, big or small, I mean, different people at different situations, on have one thing they can do to make that process better. Is that one thing that you suggest?
I think really to think about it as I'm going to be working with this person. I'm going to see them every day. At least on my team, we have a very friendly friendship environment. Treat the candidate like you would want to treat your friends, you know, somebody that you're going to be working with, instead of this kind of skull and crossbones, puzzle, intense, interrogation. Just treat it as, you know, how am I going to be interacting with this person on a day-to-day basis, and see how that interaction goes. And it doesn't mean giving up the programming aspect or the algorithm aspect. You can totally work that into your process. Like we've done that without making it a kind of cut and dry textbook question, but we've still had, you know, algorithms behind the questions that we ask. But I think the most important thing is treat them like somebody who's actually going to be your coworker someday.
Instead of being this trivia quiz of Android knowledge.
Absolutely, and being like, you know, did you memorize this exact thing this way? Like, why didn't you implement it this, you know? Obviously, things like optimization are really important, but there are ways of integrating that in our day-to-day, and that way you're including people who really are working hard every day doing their jobs and testing them on their jobs rather than how much time they've spent studying outside of work.
So true. A lot of it is the interview is a completely divorced experience from the actual job.
Exactly.
And people have to study separately for it. So,
and then, you know, you get candidates who are excellent interviewers, just like some people are excellent test takers, but then you work with them and you're like, we're not really having a great interaction. Like, why didn't we think about that?
That's great.
Exactly.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me.
And if people want to follow you on the internet, where can they find you?
So you can find me pretty much everywhere on the internet with 00 Nicolette, and I'll give it to you. It's spelled many different ways.
On the lower
and
part.
if you're interested in working with me too, you can send me an email.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye.